Hello. We all got to start somewhere, so I'm just gonna start here now today. I am opening this channel in order to connect with the problem or let's say the challenge of writing an academic paper. I'm studying gender studies. I'm in my final year before finishing my master's thesis and have been doing political sciences since 6 years now. Thing is, my academic career is not the only environment that I navigate. I'm also an actress and an influencer, and also I'm doing hypnosis coachings. So there's plenty of different things and occupations on my lifeline simultaneously that I then try to incorporate into standpoint feministic texts. The paper that is most urgently due at the moment is a paper on intersectionality and neurodiversity. Probably by now, if you have landed at my video through some kind of algorithm, or maybe because you know my name, Sophie Eifetinger, from TV, from Netflix, for example. I played in a show that's called Kids. It's an amazing young adult show, which has a lot of also political and socially relevant topics that are incorporated in it, but more on that later. First, intersectionality is the entanglement of various structures of oppression onto one point that then needs to be untangled in order to find solutions and to have a progress, a social and especially juristical progress, in order to minimize violence against individuals through structural power systems. So intersectionality asks, where does power come in and where does it leave? On the other hand, there's neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is a concept that is based on the individuality of each human being by looking at the neuronal systems of each individual. That would mean in neurodiversity, we step away from structuring people into individuals with ADHD, with autism, with depression, and look more at what is their neurophysiological individual trait beyond individuals who are neurotypical. So a neurotypical person would be somebody without some kind of diagnosis, no pathology in the personal identity, and then especially living with autism can cause severe discriminations. Neurodiversity is a way to look at the needs, at the special needs of each person, so that we don't need to look at what is right or wrong. I am now looking at ways to find parallels between the two concepts. I'm not the first one to do that, but I'm the first one to do it the way that I do it, which is to really focus on simpleness, to have a simple paper, which is now that I take 2 papers. I took the newest ones of each of the topics through the library research in order to have a text that has already went through the pandemic, because I do have the feeling that a variety of things happened during the pandemic to academic research, and one of them is first sometimes papers got more in depth, and also some papers really suffered from it, because of course some academics suffered from the environment. A lot of female academics, of course, suffered from the gendered increase in care work during the pandemic. That's not something I want to focus on, but it, of course, is something that I take into consideration as a feminist scientist. Yeah, so now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to show you through my screen video what I did, the steps that I take in order to take and write a really simple and efficient paper, connecting 2 concepts with each other to find how they bring fruit to each other, and to also introduce those 2 topics as kind of a focus of this channel. Okay. Starting with intersectionality, I'm looking at chapter 5 of a new book coming out on social theory, which is Intersectionality by Helma Lutz. Helma Lutz is a social scientist who went to my institute, the Otto Suhr Institute for Politics, for a while, and is now based at Frankfurt Goethe University. This text is a classical overview text. It is meant to focus the core concepts of intersectionality, which is actually a pretty challenging endeavor, because so many, the concept of intersectionality has traveled so far. It has been used in most diverse contexts. It is a concept that is heavily challenged also through various power structures that exist. There is this history of it stemming from a racial conflict and more discriminatory categories being added to it. While sometimes some white scholars tend to overlook the core essential discriminatory line that is along the race. The classical categories that are looked at in intersectionality is, as I said, race, but it's also gender. It can also be class. It can be age or looks. What I'm going to focus on is a category of ableism, especially neuronal ableism, and that's why in the same document higher up I included a paper that's called Neurodiversity as Politics, written by an autistic scientist together with a psychologist on environmental development, on psychological development, and doing this, so really focusing on two texts, was for me to have a simple anchor, to keep concentrated, to stay in touch with the text, because I can tell myself that this is only what I need. So as soon as I read page 1, I know I'm coming over to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's not even a whole page. So it's just 7 pages to work through for the one text. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That is still a really okay number of pages for intersectionality. I have the habit of reading a lot more texts, or at least to have the recommendation to read more. As I have pretty severe concentration problems, I don't know exactly what to route them back to, but I do have them. So for me, it's baby steps. I take one step after the other. I read one chapter after the other, and I take simple structures. So with the coming up structure, I have pages coming up. I didn't do a lot about the structure. It's just to write an introduction, the main part of the text, going over to this analysis, a head-to-head approach, and going further down. What I see now is this is not the final version. Okay, so coming back here now, I see that the thing that I had already wasn't saved. So yeah, I'm gonna need to not let myself be put down by that, but keep working. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna do now. So I usually work with Google Docs, so things like this don't happen to me. I definitely had at least like 3 pages more written already, which are gone now, and I don't exactly know why. But instead of getting all crushed up about it and making myself small or giving up, I'm going to do a technique that's called emotional freedom technique, or energy field technique. It has 2 different names, which is certain points that connect me to my nervous system, so that instead of becoming blocked by this, I actually connect with myself and will be able to continue working after. So the concept of this technique is to to create a holistic view of yourself, even though you might get stuck into like some kind of writing blockage. The points that are central here is first this point, where you kind of say hello to your nervous system. Then you go over to a point that's at your eyebrow. You touch here on the side, you touch underneath the eye, you tap here between the nose and the lips, on the chin, then underneath the key. In German it's called Schlüsselbein, I don't know what it's called in English. And then you tap here underneath and beside your boobs, if you have boobs. If you don't have boobs, you can still touch there. And then after this, you touch here, you touch the side spot, or you can also touch each spot, each fingertip solely, but I'm gonna stick with the ones that I already showed you. Of course, you don't just tap, but you take the emotion that might be there. So, what would be for me is, even though I didn't save the right document, I love and accept myself completely. So I say, even though I didn't save the document the right way, I love and accept myself completely. And then continuing, even though I might be too late to finish the paper, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I lack structure, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I have a hard time concentrating on one topic, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I keep wanting to eat something instead of keeping up the work, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I don't understand everything, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I lack, because I always feel like I'm lacking something, even though I lack experience in writing academic papers after 6 years of studying, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I'm not doing my best, the best I can, I love and accept myself completely. Because of course it's always about learning. And then, like slowly, something can be coming up. So, let me continue. Even though I have a hard time concentrating, I love and accept myself completely. Even though time's running up, I love and accept myself completely. So I'm gonna keep doing this. And here, and going here. And whatever comes up to you, just let it go through, let it come through. And then when your emotion, like for example, when your stress level rose to like 9 in the beginning, this is a method to take it down to 3 or even lower, and then to integrate it. And to integrate it, you can finish with some hyphenating. So, for example, you went down to a 3, so the stress level that you have, because some of the things that you've written is going down to 3, you can go into hyphenating. Hyphenating is a technique where you also center and ground your body. And this is something, honestly, you can even do in the library. If somebody's looking, let them watch. Maybe they might even be interested and actually want to join you and also be good to themselves and be good to their bodies. So you can go down and say something like, I love and accept myself. I am able to write an academic paper. I am able to structure myself. I am able to go step by step. And actually, one thing that I will do is I'm going to keep working now on an online document so this won't happen again. Yeah, so that's something in between, you know. When you write an academic paper, it's not just about your knowledge. It can be about your knowledge, but it can also just be like a very physical need. So you might be breathing badly, you might be having a bad posture, You might have not drunken enough. So when you're in the writing process, never just focus on one problem or narrow down to something, but always keep breathing and keep seeing it as a process. So maybe for me now, I can look at, okay, what interrupted me? Why was I interrupted? Like, what do I need to change? What do I need to do differently, for example? So what I'm going to do now to continue working is I'm going to take another hour, let's say, to read through both texts, and then kind of also look at what the core message of it is, and then from that space of feeling an abundance and a feeling like being included in the debate, I can write from there. Because in the end, it is a conversation, it's a conversation between three people, actually the three writers of the two different texts, and me, and I go into conversation with them. And of course I go into conversation with my professor, who's going to grade me on this, and who is also the person who's going to do my master's thesis. So it's always also about the relationship. So there's one other thing, for example, that you can do, which is a psychological tool where you can put, for example, like certain just like little papers, and for example write the name of the authors and the name of your professor on it, and you just go there and you kind of feel, you feel, how do you feel about this? And then, for example, you can say like, how do the two authors interact with each other? It's not something that you can know through the text, because you will never be able to know how the two of them collaborated, for example, for the text on neurodiversity. But that is something that I have from acting. It's to look at the relationship between the two. You don't even have to follow through on taking like this kind of systemic approach to writing, but it's something that can get your mind off your ability to write and be a perfect researcher or be a perfect academic author, and have it more like a playful kind of perspective. So what I'm going to do to motivate myself is I'm actually gonna close this video here, because I gave you an introduction into intersectionality and neurodiversity. I gave you an insight into what I do for a simple head-to-head approach paper where I connect neurodiversity and intersectionality and look how the two of them interact. I showed you how also for me it can happen that some of the text goes missing, how I react when something like this happens, especially short before the deadline. And then fourth, I showed you also some different and new looks in how to see that what you're actually doing is having a conversation with a specific vocabulary. I'm going to close at this point. I hope to be able to send you the link to the published paper that I presented here later on. And yes, absolutely look forward to you following me. The next paper is coming up is one on incarceration and policy. So it's about the carceral state theory. It's about in states, how we treat people who act, who cross the boundaries of the jurisdictional system, what happens with them. In this seminar, we had direct contact with somebody who's been incarcerated for more than my life, for over 25 years for robbing a bank. The second paper I'm going to write is on capoeira and politics. So I'm going to look at beyond the democratic Western ideals, what is also politics. So in capoeira, you have the roda, which is like a play fight. It was developed by African slaves because, of course, they were not allowed to fight. So they developed this fight play in order to strengthen themselves, to find strategies, to then, in the end, eventually overcome the colonizers. Another text that I'm going to write is on Berlin night economy. So it's actually about night economy becoming part of culture, like officially of culture for the German government, and how that impacts the cultural economic system. Because Usually it's something that happens a little bit in the shadows, and that's also where the strength comes from. So I'm looking at what can the shift of night economy and night culture becoming official part of culture, like theaters, like museums, what that and how that impacts the scenery and also the collectives around night economy. Then there's a fourth one, which is neurodevelopment. So I talked about neurodiversity, and I took one class in biology where I looked at neurodevelopment and neurodegeneration. And I particularly looked at the gendered norms of it. So in biology, there are some sayings like, for example, neuronal promiscuity, which is a trait that is very much attached to femininity. And it was also about partnering for neurons. And I kind of like took a more satirical approach to that from a social science perspective, looking at natural sciences and being like, nah, you're being reproducing heteronormative binary images. That's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. And then in just 1 month, I'm gonna apply for my master's thesis, which will also be based around intersectionality, and I will let you know more of what particularly. Have a good week.